Mm, there was a room, and the air in it changed. That's the first thing I have. Before anything else, before I even understand who's in it, a conversation that was holding a certain shape, and then something gave way, and the shape was gone. Let me say thank you before I go in to everyone who keeps coming back and sitting with me like this. You make this feel like a real place. And if you found your way here for the first time tonight, I'm glad you did. I read the comments long after the video ends, so nothing here just evaporates. Settle in. This one's for Virgo. Okay, back to that room. Let me sit with the cards a moment because I don't want to name what happened before I've actually looked at it. I'm seeing a kitchen or somewhere with that function, somewhere people end up standing rather than sitting. There's a glass on a counter, someone's hand near it but not holding it. And there's a particular kind of quiet that I recognize, the quiet that comes right after voices have been raised, not before, the ringing kind, the kind where everyone in the room can hear their own pulse. Something was said that wasn't supposed to be said. Let me describe what I felt the moment this opened, because three things arrived almost at once, and I want to give them to you in order. First, heat. The specific quality of a conversation that escalated past where anyone intended it to go. Not cruelty exactly. Pressure that found its release valve in the worst possible moment. Second, exposure. The feeling of something that had been carefully kept underneath finally surfacing, and the strange mix of relief and panic that comes when a hidden thing is suddenly in the open air where everyone can see it. And third, underneath both of those, something I almost didn't catch, tenderness, which makes no sense next to the heat and the exposure, and that contradiction is exactly what I want to follow, because the cards rarely hand me something that doesn't fit unless it's the most important part. The first card arrived in the position of what the conversation actually was. It shows a figure surrounded by raised swords, the air full of them, the specific picture of words flying faster than thought, of a disagreement that became its own weather system. Swords govern the mind and the tongue, the things we say, and this card is the moment talk turns into something with edges. What I'm reading, and I want to name it plainly, is that this started as one thing and became another. People were discussing you, maybe defending you, maybe questioning you, maybe just trying to make sense of you. And the discussion built pressure until it cracked. And when it cracked, things came out that the careful version of the conversation would never have allowed. Wait, no, let me look again, because I assumed this was an argument against you, and that's not sitting right. It wasn't against you. The chaos wasn't people tearing you down. The chaos was people disagreeing about you, and the disagreement got heated precisely because one person in that room was defending you harder than they meant to reveal they would. That's where the truth came from. Not from an attack, from someone overcommitting to your defense and exposing themselves in the process. That changes the whole texture of this. Let me stay with it. I want to name what the swords are doing here a little more precisely, because the suit matters. Swords are the mind, and the mind under pressure does a specific thing. It stops filtering. The whole reason careful people stay careful is that there's a half-second gate between feeling something and saying it, and that gate is the first thing to fail when a room gets hot. So what I'm watching isn't someone who decided to reveal themselves. It's someone whose gate failed. The swords flew because the pressure climbed past the point where this person could keep choosing their words. And once you lose the choosing, the truth is just sitting right there at the front, ready to fall out. And there were witnesses. That part keeps insisting on itself. This didn't happen in private where it could be denied later. It happened in front of other people, which means the truth that came out isn't only known to the two of you now, it's known to a room. That detail is going to matter for where this goes, so hold on to it. The second card arrived in the position of what truth came out. It shows a tall structure with something breaking loose from the top, figures falling, the picture of a sudden collapse that takes down whatever was being held up by pretense. This is the card of the thing that cannot stay built once the truth hits it. And here's what I'm reading. Someone was maintaining a position, a public story about how they felt or didn't feel about you, a version they'd been holding for a while in front of people, possibly even in front of themselves. And in the heat of that room, with the pressure high enough, the story collapsed. They said more than they'd authorized themselves to say. The structure they'd built to keep a feeling contained came down in front of witnesses. Let me give you the scene, because it arrived clearly and I'd rather show you than summarize. Someone is standing with their back half turned, the way people stand when they're trying to leave a conversation they can't leave, and another person pushes one question too far. Something like, then why do you even care? And the answer comes out before the careful part of the brain can stop it. Too fast, too loud, too honest. And the second it's out, the room goes still because everyone heard the thing underneath the thing, including the person who said it, especially them. That's the turn for chaos. Not a fight, a confession that escaped. Have you ever watched someone realize, mid-sentence, that they've just told the truth they were guarding? There's a specific look. This person had that look. I want to sit with the structure that collapsed for a second longer because building it cost this person something, and I don't think you've seen that cost. Maintaining a false position about how you feel is exhausting. Every time your name came up, they had to perform the smaller version of their feeling, downplay it, change the subject, keep their face neutral while something pulled at them underneath. People think the dramatic moment is the hard part, the collapse, the truth coming out. It isn't. The hard part was all the days before it, the quiet daily labor of holding the structure upright. The collapse, when it finally came, was almost a mercy. Exhausting to live through in the moment, but it ended the longer exhaustion of pretending. The third card arrived in the position of what's underneath all of it, and this is where I want to slow all the way down, because the first two cards were about the event, and this one is about the feeling that caused it. It shows two cups raised between two people, a winged figure above them, the image of genuine recognition, of something real being acknowledged between two people, whether or not they're ready for it. Water. Feeling in its most honest form. What I'm reading is that the truth that came out was not anger. People assume the chaotic conversation reveals resentment, that what spills in a heated moment is the bitter thing. Not here. What spilled here was love. Inconvenient, unresolved, still present love that this person had been managing as though it were a problem to be contained rather than a thing that was simply true. Somebody still loves you. That's the truth that turned the room over. And it came out sideways in the worst possible format, in front of people, wrapped in frustration, because that's how a guarded feeling tends to escape. It doesn't come out as a calm sentence over coffee. It comes out as the thing you say when someone pushes you and your guard drops for 1 second too long. Does this feel like it's landing on something real, Virgo? The sense that a conversation about you somewhere recently went somewhere nobody planned, and that what got revealed was bigger than what the conversation was supposed to be about. If a specific person just came to mind, tell me in one word in the comments. I read everyone. Let me go back to that contradiction from the beginning, the tenderness sitting next to the heat, because now it makes sense and I want to close the loop. The heat was never the opposite of the tenderness. The heat was the tenderness with nowhere to go. This person has been holding something for you that they didn't have a safe way to hold. And holding something that long without an outlet builds pressure, and pressure escapes through whatever crack appears first. The crack happened to be an argument, but the thing that escaped was never the arguments. It was older than the argument. It was the feeling that's been waiting underneath this whole time. And I want to ask the question the cards keep circling, which is why now? Why this conversation, this night, this room, and not the dozen other times it could have come out? Here's what I'm getting. Something shifted recently that made the old position harder to hold. Maybe they heard you'd moved on, or were about to. Maybe someone said your name with a finality that landed wrong. Maybe they simply hit the limit of how long a person can carry a thing without it carrying them. Whatever it was, the structure was already weakened before that room. The argument didn't create the collapse. It just happened to be standing where the collapse came down. Now, inhale with me, Virgo, because the fourth card is about you, and I want it to reach you before your mind gets to it first. It shows a figure standing in full sun, arms open or raised, the light unqualified, the picture of someone fully visible and not diminished by being seen, not the hoped-for version. The actual version, standing in light that doesn't flatter or hide anything because it doesn't need to. What I'm reading, and I want to name it carefully, is that the truth coming out doesn't make you exposed. It makes you confirmed. You weren't the chaos in that room. You were the thing real enough that someone couldn't hold a false position about you under pressure. The collapse of their story is not a threat to you. It's evidence of you. People don't lose their composure defending something that didn't matter. And I think you've been carrying the opposite belief. I think some part of you has wondered whether you imagined the weight of this, whether you made more of it than was there, whether you were the only one who felt the floor of it. The cards are telling me you weren't. The proof just arrived in the least graceful way. Proof can arrive through someone breaking in a kitchen and saying the true thing too loud. I want to say something specific about how Virgo holds news like this, because your particular mind does a particular thing here. You're going to want to manage it, to figure out what it means, what you're supposed to do about it, whether the messy way it came out makes it less trustworthy than a clean confession would have been. And I understand the instinct, because a feeling that escapes in chaos feels less reliable than one offered carefully. But I want to flip that for you. The chaotic version is often the more honest one. A careful confession can be strategic. A feeling that breaks loose in an argument against the person's own interest in front of people they'd rather not perform this in front of is not strategic. It's just true. The mess is the proof, not the problem. There's a second thing your mind will do, quieter and more costly. It'll start looking for how this is somehow your responsibility to fix, whether you should reach out, smooth it over, manage their embarrassment for them, resist that. Their feeling escaping is theirs to sit with. You didn't cause the collapse by being too lovable to lie about. You're allowed to simply receive the information that it happened. The fifth card arrived in the position of where this goes, and I want to read it honestly rather than wrap it in a bow. It shows a figure alone looking at cups, a few standing and some not, the picture of someone taking inventory after something has shifted, stillness after motion, the morning after card, in a way. What I'm reading is that the chaos is already over. The conversation that turned has turned. What's happening now is quieter and harder to see, which is this person sitting with the fact that the truth is out and can't be put back. You can't unsay the thing the whole room heard. They know that. So now they're in the strange suspended place of someone whose secret is no longer a secret and who hasn't decided what to do with the freedom and the terror of that. I want to name something about this suspended place because it's easy to read the silence after a confession as nothing happening, and it isn't nothing. A truth that's been spoken in front of witnesses doesn't reverse. It can be ignored, delayed, left alone for a while, but it can't be unmade. Which means this person is now living in a different reality than the one they were in before that room, whether or not they act on it soon. The thing that was load bearing in their composure is gone. Something has to move eventually because the old stillness, the pretending kind, is no longer available to them. That's not a date I can give you. It's a direction the cards are confident about even when the timing stays unclear. Let me give you the last image because it came through and I want you to have it exactly. It's later. The room is empty now, everyone gone home, and this person is back in it alone, wiping down a counter that's already clean because that's what they do with their hands when their mind won't settle. The glass from earlier is still there, and at some point they stop mid-motion and just stand there because the thing they said is still hanging in the air of the room, even though no one's left to hear it. They said it. It's real now. And some part of them underneath the embarrassment is relieved that it's finally out of them. That's where I'll leave them. Not at a resolution. At the quiet after the truth, holding a thing they can no longer pretend isn't there. Before I close, I want to say the true thing rather than the dramatic one. A conversation about you went somewhere nobody planned, and what surfaced when it did was not anger and not bitterness. It was love, escaping the place it had been kept. That love coming out badly, loudly, in front of people, doesn't make it less real. It makes it more real, because nobody loses control to protect a lie. I won't tell you what to do with it. I won't promise you this becomes a clean reunion or a particular outcome on a particular day because I don't know that, and anyone who claims to is performing. What I can tell you is what the room actually held. It held someone who still feels something for you so strongly that they couldn't keep a straight face about it under pressure. That part is real, and it was real before tonight, and it stays real after. And here's the quieter truth I want you to take more than any of it. You spent some of this not sure whether the feeling was mutual, whether you'd been carrying something one-sided. Tonight answered that. Not gently, not on your terms, but it answered it. The not knowing is over, even if the deciding hasn't started. You were the truth in that room. Somebody broke trying not to say it and said it anyway. What you do with that is entirely yours. If this names something you felt, if you recognize that ringing quiet after raised voices, or the look on someone's face when they realize they've said too much, I'd genuinely like to know, not the whole story unless you want to tell it, just enough that I know it found the right person. I read every single comment, and I hold what is shared in this space with genuine care long after this video ends. Until next time, Virgo. There was a room, and the air in it changed. Something true got loose. It came out wrong and loud and real, and underneath all the noise, it was love the whole time. You can set it down for tonight. It'll still be true in the morning, and so will you.